Greetings and welcome to tonight's live stream. It is Sunday night as he puts his glasses back on. Oh yes, the 18th of December. How is everybody? This is Robert Phoenix, and I was watching last week's live stream, and I tend to be a bit subdued. I mean, the energy is quite different than it normally is with the flames and the forecasts and all the other stuff I put out there. And I'll give you kind of an insight. I rarely watch stuff that I do. I should probably do it more, but I don't really dig it. I don't go back and really listen to a lot of my shows. I think it's the Virgo in me that's too critical. But I did watch some of last week's live stream, mainly to see how I looked, because I am still vain at this stage of my life, and probably will be for a few more years until I start wearing striped pants and plaid shirts, and you know that story. The pants go up around the navel, and I start calling everybody Bud. Oh, what a world we're living in! Mercury retrograde is here. It is with us. Every Mercury retrograde, it seems like I have computer issues. Although I managed to kind of dodge those last time, but the Mercury retrograde before that, I had to get my hard drive taken care of, replace that and some other stuff. Update the operating systems, and I'm about as high as I can go on this operating system. I might be able to get one more out of the old school Macs, which are the best because you can get in and change stuff and work on stuff. And the new ones, the Mac Air books, they won't let you get in there and do anything. Upgrade the processing speed, none of that. So I could probably go back about as far as maybe 2013 and get a new one if I need to. Sounds like John Teter, doesn't it? Sounds like when Teter went back in time, back to the 1970s, to get an IBM computer that his grandfather had worked on, and bring it back into the future. They're talking about John Teter now. People are talking about John Teter and the John Teter timeline. If you do not know who John Teter is, let me fill you in. Very interesting persona, I guess, figure, if you could call him that. Showed up in chat rooms around 1999, 2000, claiming he was from the future, and had some very interesting stories to talk about the future and America and a civil war that occurs in the United States. And he had pictures of his time machine. What was really interesting about Teter, and perhaps somebody who was really sophisticated could pull off kind of a hoax in the way that he did, is that he actually talked about CERN and how they opened up a portal in CERN, and that's how they were able to move backwards into time. And at that time, 1999, I mean, CERN's been around for a long time, and they weren't quite there in terms of flipping the switch on particle acceleration. They were still in the deep construction phase, modeling phase, R&D phase, but it was around. CERN's been around for a very long time. They started planning CERN in the late 50s. But so Teter brings CERN up, and at that time it wasn't really people weren't looking at it the same way that they do now. So what Teter laid out was that there was a president who was going to try to bring people together, and he was a bit late. Okay, now this is where it gets interesting, because he calls this president a Lincoln-like figure. Now, a lot of people believe, at least I believed when I read that he was referring to Barack Obama, because of Obama's affiliation with Illinois and Lincoln and the swearing on of the Lincoln Bible, which is a pure horse shit, to be honest with you. It was just all political positioning, memery, and mind control. That Obama was going to be the new Lincoln, for a new emancipation or re-emancipation, but also maybe preside over a civil war in a very Lincolnian kind of way. But I think Teter might have actually been referring to Donald Trump. Now, he's got his timeline off a little bit because he's talking about, Teter's talking about the 2000s, which is right around where Obama comes into play. But if you listen to what Teter says, and there are websites there's a website dedicated to John Teter, that he talks about a president that tries to unite people and bring them back together. Barack Obama talked about that, but never really was all that interested in it, to be honest with you. In fact, he was really there to do something very different, which was to divide people, in which case he did a fantastic job. He was one of the best and most divisive presidents if you're looking for a divisive president. And most of presidents tend to be divisive and polarizing, especially in the 20th century. I mean, there was a time when presidents were held up, not to a different standard, but they were held up in a way that they're not held up today. But they had detractors. I mean, you could go back in time and you could look at FDR when he tried to, when he did, initiate the New Deal, when he brought that into being. There were people that did not like the New Deal. They believed that by creating the New Deal, that FDR was moving the United States closer to socialism and communism. And they were, to some extent, they were right. So he had his detractors. So it's not as if presidents were immune from any kind of criticism, but it really became much more powerful once Nixon took the office. Johnson managed to skate by that criticism for the most part. Although I think the left had some for him, but because Johnson was a Democrat, I believe that they kind of let him off the hook until Nixon got in which case the left let Nixon have it, left, right, and center. So getting back to the Teter timeline, I believe that Trump might be the president that John Teter about, because Trump is using all the verbiage, make America great again. He's trying to unite people under one country, one flag, one nation, under God. And I think that it might be a bit late, to be honest with you. And we are on the eve of the elections. Well, not the elections, the Electoral College. We're on the eve of the Electoral College. Tomorrow they vote. We're going to look at, once again, the chart for the Electoral College. I'll bring that up, pop that up. We'll look at that. But getting back to the Teter piece, because I was talking about technology and computers via my computer here, which kind of went funky today on the midst of Mercury retrograde. It's there. It's here. I can tell you it's here because my machines are starting to get weird. But the thing about the Teter timeline is that there's also civil war and unrest, and there's this relationship with Russia, which ultimately Russia becomes kind of this ally of people that are trying to be engaged in a meaningful struggle against the government of this United States. And Russia delivers a couple of significant nuke strikes that takes out some serious power and people and arms, so that the Civil War and the people that are fighting for sovereignty and freedom can actually carry the day. And we're right there. We're on the precipice of the Teter timeline. I talked about this when I was at Gaia/Gaia. I always call it Gaia, but it's Gaia now. I talked about it the last time I was there, and that show aired recently. And I just started to read on the internet that they're talking about Teter's timeline. Are we living in John Teter's timeline? And I brought that up, and so here we are. Is anything written in stone? Are we dealing with the immutable laws of prophecy? Sometimes we are, and sometimes we aren't. And I truly believe that Trump, and again, not perfect. A good friend of mine sent me this thing about this guy that hits on his board. He's a big Monsanto head, and look, we can't. There's only one thing. I'm going to get into astrology. I promise. But there's nothing we can do right now about what's happened except manage our own systems, manage our own ship. I mean, if we look at this, if we play this out, I'm gonna lay it out there. If Hillary had been elected, it would have been terrible. We'd be going to war with Russia, and we may not have a complete and utter crackdown on free speech, but we might, because there would be a lot of really angry and upset people that Hillary Clinton had won. And yet, the protesting or the criticism or the reaction would not have been as explosive. Let's put it that way. Would it be sustained? Sure. I think so. I think so. But it wouldn't have been as explosive. But she's not there. What if Jeb Bush would have won? How do you think the country would be? Anybody on that Republican side, with the exception of maybe Rand Paul and maybe Ben Carson. And Ben Carson was in the pockets of Big Pharma. I mean, the sides were loaded. Bernie Sanders, great ideals. Bernie Sanders would never have been elected. And we saw why. We saw why. The banks, Goldman Sachs, Wall Street, who were behind Hillary Clinton, firmly behind Hillary Clinton, gave her and the Democratic Party marching orders to not allow Sanders to get anywhere near the election, to cut them off at every single pass. And that's what they did. Had Bernie Sanders somehow magically gotten through, there would have been another gauntlet that Bernie Sanders would have had to go against. And I guarantee you that he could have put up a very good fight against Donald Trump, because Bernie had a lot of supporters. But again, at the end of the day, who do you think the banks would back? They'd look at Trump and they'd look at Sanders. And Sanders is a full-on socialist come communist. And unless they want a replay of 1917, where the power is stratified in the hands of a few and everybody else is completely destitute, I don't think that that's really what that would be the prescription for a Sanders victory. I just don't think so. So here we are. This is what we've got. This is who we have. This is what we've got. And we're going to look at some of his charts again tonight. We're going to look at the progressed Trump chart, which is very interesting. I haven't spent a lot of time with it until tonight. And there's one aspect of the progressed Trump chart that is pretty amazing, actually. So we'll get into that. And we'll look at the inauguration chart again, specifically as it relates to the potential for an assassination. Of course, we've got to get through tomorrow. My sense is that he probably will, in spite of this Mercury retrograde, because it all has to come down to some kind of major denouement. Am I right? Yes, I think I am. And I've been sitting with this as an astrologer, thinking about Mercury retrograde tomorrow and the vote count for the Electoral College. Now, clearly, with the retrograde moment happening tomorrow, especially in Capricorn, it could indicate that, yes, that there would be a reversal. I mean, astrologically, we have to think about that. And I part of me wants to say, yeah, it's going to happen because of astrology. But there's another part of me that thinks that he's going to get through this, and we're going to come down to that January 20th day. Because I think that that's the important day. It's the important day, not necessarily for Trump, although it is, because obviously he will be sworn in at that point in time. But if there was really going to be a major coup, a major revolution, then on the 20th of January at 0 degrees Aquarius, then that day would be the day. That it would be not just the election or the certification of Donald Trump as the 45th president of the United States, but it would be a declaration of war, of revolutionary war under the sign of Aquarius. Now, think of all of these entities that are floating around out there right now. Floating around out there. Can you feel them? Can you feel the entities? Think of them. What do they love? They just feed, man. They feed. They feed off of chaos and fear, and they feed off of loathing. Loathing. That's right. They love that shit. When you're degraded and debased, when you're down, they love that. Just look that stuff up. And what do you think is going to be bigger than the Super Bowl? Bigger than 10 Super Bowls. It'll be this inauguration. It'll be all that volatility. All the people on the streets of Washington, D.C. for miles and miles and miles around, shutting down the city. Michael Moore banging the drum. He doesn't have to bang the drum. He just bang his belly. You know, it's about drum size now. Boom, 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 boom. Michael Moore lost the plot. He lost the plot years ago. Years ago. I loved Roger and Me. It's a great film. It's a film that changed my life. But it became a sellout. Just like everybody in the left becomes a sellout. The right, hey man, sometimes they're just sellouts from the beginning. And that's just the way it is. And you know where they are. You know where they stand. Yeah. That's why I think he's got to get to the election. Because it is going to be the greatest spiritual, emotional smorgasbord in the history of the planet. I think so. I think it's going to be right up there. It'll be right up there with some of the great wars. But even more so. You know, in war, you get a couple of emotions, right? You get fear. You get anguish, anger. I mean, 3 basic emotions. Fear, anguish, anger. Maybe some form of jubilation. Maybe. It's pretty, basic emotional distress. You go to a thing like the 20th in Washington, D.C., and the range of emotions is going to be so amplified. It won't be fear and anger, although those are going to be the primary kind of base colors. But you're going to get resentment and all these shades of gray. So if you are one of these entities hanging out there, man, you want to see that day. You do. Trust me. You've got that date circled on your calendar, which is why I think Trump will pass through tomorrow. It's a gauntlet. And it's that January 20th date, which is huge in terms of astrology and in terms of the energy. Remember, Washington, D.C. is constructed on an esoteric grid by a master mason. Washington, D.C. is a portal. It is an esoteric portal. So when you have all those energies coming down, funneling into that esoteric portal, which is Washington, D.C. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. That's a mega ritual. And that's why I think Trump will probably get through tomorrow. Even though it is Mercury retrograde. And I could be wrong. I could sit here and I could be wrong. And Mercury retrograde will flip everything. The electors will flip. And then we are in some deep water. Now remember, I believe the plan was to have the election to be incredibly close, so close that they would have had to suspend the actual outcome of the election and then run this thing through for a while, and Obama would step in, and you would have all the Black Lives Matter and the communist Soros-generated purple revolution aggression taking place on the streets of America, and this would have been sustained. By the way, you haven't seen a lot of that. It will pop up again tomorrow if Trump gets through. It will pop up again, and we'll actually see some stuff happening tomorrow. But that was the plan, and then the plan would be to extend it and move it outwards towards the holidays and beyond, and of course with only 8 Supreme Court justices. It could be deadlocked, and then there'd be a COG, continuity of government. I think that was the plan, and in there somewhere was probably this, again, this clash of ideologies and cultures, and left and right generations. But what didn't happen with that was that Trump got a massive amount of votes. A massive amount. It was too big. It was too big to put the election into abeyance and then deep freeze it and then create this kind of suspended state of existential drama. But here we are with some other factors coming into play. And if something does go wrong tomorrow, if they do not put the requisite amount of votes through so that the Electoral College recognizes Trump as president, we will have a civil war. It will happen. It will happen. It may not happen starting tomorrow, but it will happen at some point. A little tough to protest now because it's so cold out there. Maybe even tougher to have a coordinated response if there is something that goes south with the electors. But I don't think this is what we want, just from me to you, unless, of course, we want to just lance the boil. All right, let's get into some astrology. We're going to look at what's happening with our friends, the stars, and we're going to get into some charts tonight. Let me just pull this off here. Sorry for the glasses, but sometimes you just got to do. Okay, it's off there. See, yeah, it's off. Okay, so let's go home to our friendly neighborhood astro.com homepage. Oh, by the way, this is just a little bit of trivia for you. I don't think it's really that meaningful, but Trump's she ran Trump's campaign along with Steve Bannon, Kellyanne Conway. Kellyanne Conway's birthday is January 20th, which is the same day as the inauguration. So just file that away. The sun is at 27 degrees right now, Sagittarius. You know what that means? It means it is conjunct the galactic center. Now, the galactic center might be this dark rift that is consuming our galaxy, turning it into a field, a massive field of antimatter, an anti-universe, where the Luciferic gods and their minions now reign over the rest of us. Maybe it has. Maybe we just don't know. Somehow I don't think so. But I really do think we were in the conflict for it. We were in the struggle of the throes of light and dark. So the galactic center, the 27 degrees, Sagittarius, and this is where the sun, it's really like 26, 27. This is where the sun is right now. Moments of immutable truths, even though Sagittarius is a mutable sign. This is where we can get in touch over the course of the next 24 hours with something profound, deep inside of us. Something that we allow to emerge in a way that's truthful, in a way that's connected to who we are, not just in this lifetime. This lifetime is just a mask. It's just a suit. That's all it is. It's costume. But something beyond that, something more profound than what you'd like to eat for breakfast, something more profound than maybe your favorite sexual position, although that's not too bad, something more profound than your favorite team, something even more profound than your roots and your family and your home, something that goes far beyond that. To me, this is what the galactic center 27 degrees Sagittarius represents. And we're here right now. And how great would it be? How great would it be to know that without any kind of equivocation, to awaken from the dream, and to do so in a way where you were grounded and responsible because that's a lot of power. That is a lot of power. And over the course of a lifetime, what happens to us is we have to deal with power. We have to reconcile a relationship with power. Sometimes we have it, we feel really great. Other times we lose it, we feel really crappy. Other times we misuse it, and we feel crappy about how we misuse it, unless, of course, you're a psychopath, in which case you just love it. And that way you never screw up, right? I mean, that's the psychopath's agreement. If they're always doing bad, then how could they ever do wrong? I mean, it's pretty clear. You know, they're just perpetuating evil for the sake of, you know, their own perpetuation, and they don't have to worry about it. There's no moral dilemma there once they cross a line. Am I right? Although they have a lot to answer for at some other point in time. But you know what I'm talking about, man. If you can get there, if you could wake up in the moment and say, this is the depth of who I am, and it's coming through the limitations of the skin and the senses. This is where the sun is right now, at 27 degrees Sagittarius. So if you're listening to me and you're going to go to sleep tonight, meditate. Meditate on who you are in all of your 12-dimensional bodies and how you can bring that into a focal point here. And then get up in the morning to make your coffee and get on to work and do whatever you do. Because that is the dance. And the dance brings us to our next planet, which is the moon. And the moon is in the sign of Virgo. So we have a moon-sun square. And the moon in Virgo is practical. The moon in Virgo doesn't really care about the galactic center. It doesn't. The moon in Virgo knows, hey, you know, did we make that payment? The moon in Virgo is, am I gonna be able to live without being homeless? The moon in Virgo is engaged in a form of emotional security. It's a tricky moon, the moon in Virgo. It's a very peripatetic moon. So we're nervous. I think there are people that are nervous tonight when they go to bed. I think they're going to be they're nervous about what's going to happen tomorrow. This is the energy of the Virgo moon. But there's things we can't do. We can pray. We can align, we can intend, and if God wills it, then it's going to happen to some degree. Okay? And the rest you have to let go of. Tether your camel first and then trust in God, the Sufi maxim. But the Virgo moon is a nervous moon. So tomorrow, it's not quite there yet. We got the moon at 5 degrees. So it's really Tuesday, late Monday night, early Tuesday, when the moon goes into square with the sun. That is when it can get tricky. Now, in terms of Donald Trump, the moon is transiting his first house, which is in the sign of Virgo. He will be nervous. I can tell you that there will be some nervousness with Trump, especially because he has his own sun in Gemini with that Uranus conjunction, which we've talked about ad nauseum. So when we get into like Tuesday with that sun-moon square, that could be a bit tricky. But remember now, at that point, the moon goes into Libra. We're talking on Wednesday, roughly. And that is going to mark a major shift. And that will actually be in favor of Trump. And I'm going to get into why, both from the natal chart and from the progress chart, which is very interesting. It's very interesting. And there's something I found out about his progress chart, which maybe some other astrologers have already checked out, but I don't dip into other astrologers. So I really wouldn't know. I only know what I do. So the moon is in Virgo, and we're starting the week with the moon in Virgo. It's not the most placid moon. The moon in Virgo wants to make sure that its emotional capacity is safe. Bottom line. It's a critical moon. It's a very, very critical moon. One of the things that I would say is that for all of us, to not be that hard on ourselves, especially as we go into Mercury retrograde tomorrow and your car doesn't start or you forgot to get gas and you have to pull off and get gas, and by the time you get back in the freeway it's bumper to bumper traffic. Don't beat yourself up, please. It's not going to be helpful. But I'll tell you the best parts about the Virgo moon is that if you really, really, really care about yourself, you really care about your emotions, then you will take care of them. And the Virgo moon can do that. You can keep yourself in positions where you can theoretically retain your emotional purity. That it does not have to be tainted or corrupted by things that you don't want to do or feel as if it's going to push you in areas that you won't feel good about yourself with afterwards. Think of the Virgo moon as the doting mother on the child. And as a child, not a young adult, not a teenager, but as a child, and says, child, this is not going to be good for you. And the child begrudges it and says, oh, mother, I wish I could go do that. Then you move the child aside and the child is kept out of harm's way or some kind of interaction which would not be beneficial for the child's development. Think of the Virgo moon along those lines, protecting the sanctity of your emotional space. Now, the sun in Sagittarius is wobbling at the galactic center. Remember, as every sign goes into the final degrees of a sign, it begins to fluoresce. It begins to become unstable until we get to the 29th degree, in which there's nothing left at the 29th degree. And then we go into the renewal phase at 30-0. So right now, here's the energy. It's like this, right? It's like that. Take a deep breath. Take good care of yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself. If you are putting on a few pounds, let it go. We got the holidays coming, Virgo moon. You can get really critical about that. Dealing with your mother. We're coming into a time where we're dealing with families. This is a tricky time with the Virgo moon starting off on the 19th and the 20th. People come into town, or we're dealing with their energy, especially on the maternal side, and sometimes mothers can be really critical. But then the moon moves into Libra midweek, and that's going to be so much better and so much more pleasant and so much more convivial. And again, we'll talk about that as it relates to Trump. Now, Mercury is in Capricorn, and it's at 15 degrees, so it's right in the middle of Capricorn's second decan, which puts it down into Taurus, so we're talking about money. And of course, when Mercury moved into the second decan, what did Yellen do? Yellen raised the rates on the Fed and said there's going to be 2 more Fed increases over the course of 2017. That's Mercury in Capricorn. That's second decan. Now, this retrograde might have to do with money and money policy. So while we're talking about the Electoral College, while we're talking about the prospect of these renegade electors, watch what the other hand is doing. Over here, we have the distraction. Over here, we have something that might be much, much more pressing. And in the long term, Capricorn, potentially dangerous, devastating. Think money. Think money. Think markets. This would be Mercury Capricorn retrograde in the second decan. So now we have the potential of whatever is going to happen with the Electoral College or not. And if it does happen, if it does go south, if there is a Mercury retrograde and everything gets scattered and it goes to the house, whatever happens, and continues to keep us on pins and needles while those interdimensional parasites continue to feast off of us, then we just have to deal with it. Bottom line. But then there's this other thing, this other potential economic that might be kind of flying under the radar with the Electoral College stuff happening. Just remember that. Keep your eye on that. It's 15 degrees, Capricorn. What a time for Mercury retrograde, huh? Okay. Venus is in Aquarius at 13 degrees. Mars right there on the edge, the anaretic degree. This is really interesting. This is such an interesting cycle. Because we started off with the election at 29 Capricorn. And we've gone through one entire Mars cycle with the Electoral College coming back at 29 Aquarius. One entire Mars, well, from not a cycle. That would be from like Mars in Aquarius to Mars in Aquarius. That's one cycle. Now I'm talking about one Mars transit from planet to planet. This is fascinating. So here we are on the edge again. On the edge. Now Mars will go into Pisces. And, boy, Mars and Pisces, that is the miasma. That, you know, it's like anything goes with Mars and Pisces. It's going to be very interesting. Very, very interesting. Regardless of, I mean, if Trump does make it through this part of the gauntlet, and my instincts say he will, only because they want that January 20th date. Okay. Then the Mars and Pisces energy, talk about scapegoats. Man, Alex Jones, you know, Breitbart. I mean, there's going to be scapegoats everywhere. Everywhere with this Mars and Pisces action. Scapegoats, villains, heroes, anti-heroes. I mean, it's going to be, you know, now when we go through even mundane aspects, like a simple Mars shift from Aquarius to Pisces. How many times have we gone through Mars in Aquarius to Mars and Pisces? Okay, a lot. I mean, it's like, you know, it's not quite infinite, but it's innumerable, countless. But now when we go through a Mars Aquarius, Mars Pisces shift, man, the energy is so stacked that when we go through an astrological shift, that it could be so volatile depending upon the planet and the way that the energies have been loaded, really. So go back 2-3 years, Mars Aquarius, Mars Pisces, things happen. I could take you back in time, probably 2-3 years. Look at a Mars Aquarius, Mars Pisces transit, and I could show you some very Mars Piscean kinds of things that might have to do with water, petroleum, drugs. Probably would be very easy to do that because that's the way astrology works. But in this particular Mars aspect, in Mars transit, wow. Now we're really kind of evoking the heightened energy of every single aspect. Look what happened when Mars went into Aquarius. I mean, we had riots going on. We had protests going on. We've got a revolution going on, boys and girls. We've got a coup d'etat. We've got stuff happening we've never seen before. And it all started with Mars and Aquarius right after the election. In Mars and Pisces, anything goes. Anything goes. Think about Mars in the 12th house for a moment. Okay, let's just talk about this from an astrological perspective. And I think you might learn something here. I'll try to pass something along. In the old days, Mars in the 12th house represented hidden enemies. Mars in the 6th house represented open enemies. So if you have Mars in the 6th house in your chart, there's a good chance that you know who wants to mess with you, right? Mars in the 12th house, there's this kind of subterfuge that goes on with Mars in the 12th house. And I have seen it in people's charts. I've seen it. I've seen people have people, total strangers. This is true. I've had people tell me who have Mars in the 12th house that total strangers will come up to them or people that barely know them and tell them, I don't like you. I don't like you. That is a total Mars 12th house. Now, sometimes, but that would be considered open, theoretically, correct? But for every one of those, there might be 6 or 7 that have a secretly held grudge against the person that has Mars in the 12th house. Now, let's say, for instance, you've kind of mastered your Mars. And what I mean by mastering Mars in the 12th house is that you're so aware of your own internal state. You're so aware of your ability to connect into either your anger or your aggression or whatever it is that Mars is connecting to you, with you at a very deep level, that you exercise it either through dancing or music or art or working out, so that you're continually moving that deep Mars, Okay, let's say you got that. And you're on top of it, which is a big order. It's a tall order. It can be very creative, Mars in the 12th house. But then there's another aspect to it, a very mundane aspect, which is meddling. People that have Mars in the 12th house wind up, if they're not enemies, they have meddlers in their lives. And they throw monkey wrenches into things, and they foul things up. It's a fascinating aspect, Mars in the 12th house. But there tends to be an undercurrent of some kind of either aggression or energy that makes other people feel uncomfortable. I'll tell you what it is. That Mars in the 12th house is a trigger for other people's stuff that they have not checked out. In Mars 12th house, people will bring it up. And it happens at a unspoken level. It's not a level that's articulated. It's unspoken. So you're dealing with, kind of deep shadow with Mars in the 12th. And then what happens is that people will project onto the Mars 12th house person. And it's their stuff that they're projecting. Now, sometimes Mars 12th house people may actually really have anger issues that they have not reconciled. And sometimes they'll say something, and it will be something very innocuous like, good morning, how are you? But the other person will hear it like, good morning, asshole. How the hell are you? And that's how they'll hear it. And so then what happens is that now there is a confrontational energy based upon the inability to really clarify that feeling. My first wife, I've been married 2 times, I'll be straight up. My first wife had Mars in Pisces in her chart. And this is where we get to the Mars in Pisces piece. She had Mars in Pisces, and she had all this water. She was a Leo, but she had Moon in Scorpio. She had Venus in Cancer. She had Mars in Cancer. And then she had Mars in Pisces. So a lot of water in this chart. Actually, her moon was in Pisces too. So she had a Moon-Mars conjunction. It wasn't Scorpio. Anyway, she could say the sweetest things. And there was always this undercurrent of aggression. And I believe it was that Mars in Pisces, which is similar to being Mars in the 12th house. Because that's Pisces' house. That there is this unchecked kind of level of emotion. I mean, think of Pisces as an ocean. That's what it is. And if you have Mars living in Pisces, it's like it's living in this giant miasma. So we're moving into Mars in Pisces right after this Mars in Aquarius, and people are going to be really touchy. Very touchy. And there's all kinds of potential for the energy to go in many different directions with Mars and Pisces. On New Year's Day, Mars and Neptune are in exact conjunction on New Year's Day. That could be very strange. Very strange. A lot of hungover people. Can you imagine? I mean, let's say, for instance, Trump gets through and the electors vote him through. You're going to have a bunch of real, it's like all these people, like, yeah, it can happen, it can happen, it can happen, it can happen. It can happen. Come on, come on, come on. And it doesn't happen. It's like, oh, shit. And now they've got to go through the holidays, and they've got to look at Trump getting inaugurated on the 20th. On New Year's Eve, man, there are going to be so many wasted liberals across America if this happens. They're going to be so wasted. They're going to wake up on New Year's Day with the worst hangover. America, guarantee you right now, America is going to have the worst hangover ever this New Year's. Terrible. There could also be some real false flag energy on New Year's Day. I'm not going to project into it. But Mars in Pisces, there's a lot of there's a lot of there can be aggression. It's hidden aggression. There's scapegoatism. There's heroism. There's anti-hero. It's all in there with Mars and Pisces. It's going to be fascinating. Absolutely, utterly fascinating. Let's go to Jupiter in Libra, 19 degrees. Transiting Jupiter, 19 degrees. We're going to get into this with Donald Trump on the 2 charts. Jupiter goes retrograde after the first of the year, which is going to be interesting. I mean, how I see Jupiter retrograde after the first year is there are laws that are going to be repealed. And if you're a liberal, you may not like some of them. And if you're a conservative, you may not like some of them either. I mean, Trump demanded, he said that he was going to either get a new trade deal with Mexico and NAFTA or he's going to pull out. I think Trump is going to piss some conservatives off. I think he's going to piss some of the people on the alt-right off. There'll be a few things along the way that he'll get right for them. He'll dance. He'll do that dance back and forth, which is what I think he's going to do. But Jupiter retrograde Libra, we're going to see some laws repealed. We're going to see some things go backwards. And some of them might be really good, and some of them may not be. That's just the way it is. But we have this Jupiter in Libra, and it has the potential, really, in a lot of ways, to bring greater balance, theoretically, into our ability to relate with one another and find peace and harmony and all those Libran things. The challenge is the opposition with Uranus, because it's getting very, very close right now, 19 to 20. 20 degrees, Uranus in Aries, Jupiter in Libra at 19 degrees. This really gets back into that flip that I was talking about on the show on Friday. And it was either Friday or Thursday, I can't remember. But I was talking about how Martin Sheen and Moby and Bob Odenkirk and all these liberals were really begging, imploring people. By the way, Loretta Swit was on there. Briefly, one shot. Oh my God, she looks horrible. She looks so bad. The face work. Boy. Not good, Loretta. I feel for that woman. Man. She had a lot of guts to put her face out. She must really want Trump to go down and these electors. I mean, maybe that's what it is. Maybe they... Okay. I'm going to preface this, okay? I'm getting into Jill Stein-Neck territory. So please, I'm conscious of this now, though. Because I got to go dark every now and then. But what if, they saw Loretta Swit on video, and they said, oh boy, her work is just going south. Should we really put her in here? I mean, she does not look great. And then somebody says, I think if we put her in there and she shows her face, that she's being really brave and really bold and really courageous. And by doing that, she'll affect him at a visceral level, and she'll be our secret weapon. Let's do it. And they'll look around each other and go, yeah, you're right. You're right. Because that's how deep people think. No, it's not how deep they think. People don't think that deep. But on a symbolic level, it might work. Anyway, see, it wasn't that bad. I have empathy for her. I do. But those people were talking like it was 1776. They were sounding like they were dyed-in-the-wool patriots, dyed-in-the-wool conservatives, and yet they were really promoting a very liberal, radical, revolutionary kind of rhetoric. And before that moment in time, they wouldn't go there. They wouldn't be kind of tapping into the founding fathers. I mean, are you kidding? They're called progressives for a reason. They're looking to the future, man. They got no need to look to the past. It's all about progressing. It's all about change. It's all about creating the world that we want, not the world that we came from. But that's what they were doing. They were tapping into that kind of, it's your patriotic right, your patriotic duty. Come on, you can do it. Well, this is the Jupiter-Uranus opposition. You know, Jupiter goes, oh, Libra's over here, over here, over here, over here. We got conservative, liberal. You know, we got progressive. We got conservative. You know, and Uranus comes and he goes, wham, flip it around, upside down, turn it around. You know, Uranus is like flipping everything around right now. Boy, isn't this fun? It's like a carnival ride. Now all of a sudden they go from Selma 1963 and identity politics to it's your patriotic right. Come on, Americans. The Founding Fathers. Hamilton. I got to do Hamilton's chart. Anyway, that's the Jupiter-Uranus opposition. And they're flipping it. They're flipping it. Trying to pimp that patriotic message. Patriotic pimping. Isn't that what Kid Rock is? A patriotic pimp? He is. All right. Let's see. Saturn in Sagittarius, 19 degrees. Sun here, Saturn there. Man, this Saturn in Sagittarius has been a trip, huh? It's been a total trip. Wow. Truth, no truth, news, fake news, no news. Shut down the truth. Shut down websites, filter Facebook. I mean, so somebody went to my website, I think they went to my website from Facebook, and they warned the user that it was an unsafe site. How about that? I felt pretty good. Like, hey, I'm right in there with Alex Jones. I don't know if anybody else has done that, but it happened to one person. So yeah, this is Saturn in Sagittarius. It's a fight, man. We were in a fight for truth and a fight for reality. Whatever reality is, we know what it isn't at times. We can sort of check the boxes of what reality isn't. I think we're getting closer to what it might be. But I think we're still a long ways off. But anyway, Saturn in Sagittarius is like this, you know, Saturn is legislation. Saturn is it's administration. I teach this in my astrology class, which you can get, by the way, on sale on my website for a gift or for yourself. I talk about the nature of law, the ninth house where laws are made, Sagittarius where laws are made, and Capricorn in the 10th house where they're enacted. Because unless you have Capricorn, and unless you have the 10th house, and unless you have Saturn, laws are inert. They mean nothing. Nothing. You know, there's jaywalking laws. You can walk across the street, break the law. No cop there. That's no Saturn. Doesn't count. Right? Saturn, Sagittarius. So if Saturn, which is the enforcement of the law, the administrators of the law, the lords of Sauron, the agents of El, the Elohim, right? And then we have Sagittarius, which is truth, which is law, and it's like this force. Now you have the people with this counter force, because we're trying to come in with our own version of what we think is the truth, and then we have the black guard of the truth telling us what is true and what isn't true, and it's so amazing. It's so amazing. Again, this is kind of like this Jupiter, Libra, Uranus, Aries effect. Let's think about this. This is kind of mind-blowing. Go back in time, pre-election, and Donald Trump was talking about how, hey, look, you know, the results might be rigged. Everything's rigged. Rigged. Correct? And if they kept out, and Hillary, man, Hillary took him to the woodshed on that. Obama took him to the woodshed. How elections are safe. They're safe. And he was going on and on and on about how safe elections are. And then they were tossing around conspiracy theory. He's a conspiracy theorist. So the elections are safe. Donald is paranoid that the elections aren't going to go his way. And you really, if you do that, if you claim that the elections are rigged, that really what you're doing is you're essentially denigrating and desecrating the entire democratic process. You're invalidating it. This came right out of Hillary's mouth. Obama's telling us the elections are safe. And anything else is a conspiracy theory. Well, where are we now? Hillary is going on and on and on about fake news, and her camp wants all this stuff, wants the recount, is pushing hard for the Electoral College revolution. I mean, she's doing, and they're doing all the things that they said that if Donald Trump does, then there would be a miscarriage of the democratic process and the republic itself. And they're doing exactly that. And Obama, who said all the elections are safe, is now saying, well, maybe it wasn't safe. And all these naysayers to conspiracy theories are now creating a conspiracy of their own with the Russians. It's totally fascinating to see, again, this Jupiter, Libra, left, right, conservative, progressive, I mean, you know what I mean? This is Libra. Jupiter, expando. Uranus, Aries, hitting it with lightning bolts and flipping it and turning it. It's no wonder people are suffering social vertigo. It's the upside down. Now it's the liberals and the progressives that are the conspiracy theorists. Now it's the people on the right who are actually bringing the real news, while the people on the left and the mainstream are the ones that are creating the fake news, although they'll say that the right is creating the fake news in order to invalidate their fake news. What a crazy, wild, mixed up, weird world we're living in. Navigate through that. What's real? What is real in your life? Because that's really going to be the nexus of what's going to get you through all this. And that's a very personal question for each and every one of you. There's Uranus in Aries, retrograde, 20 degrees. Look, I think there's a large part of society that's trying to reclaim its power, and we just don't know how to do it. We just don't. And in many cases, even the power that we're trying to reclaim is faulty, and maybe not even there to begin with in the first place. But I think that's a lot of what's taking place right now. People are trying to bring something back to themselves, and in some cases, things that they never even really experienced, which is problematic if you really think about it. But I understand the intention, the notion. So we have Uranus retrograde in Aries. Individually, groups of people, society, trying to find their own sense of empowerment in a world that is incredibly disempowering. Look, and I am no social justice warrior, and I have thoughts and feelings and opinions about what happened and what's happened over the last 35, 40 years. Really since 1963, 11/22, but intensely since 1966, in this country, and how it's changed people and how people have been conditioned. And in a large part, the conditioning has not been great. And it's actually eaten away the human soul. So, and yet I have compassion for people who feel as though they're underrepresented or that the world is against them, and that they've created, and we create all the time. I mean, we create all the time. And that's the thing that we need to understand. We're always creating. Even our victimization is a creation. And it's taken me a long time to work through that. And to get to a point where I understand that. Victimization is a creation. And no matter how many allies you have, it's still a creation. Because there are people who have suffered extreme circumstances in their lives, really extreme. And they manage to rise above those circumstances. You know, I know he's just a kid, but last week when the Patriots were playing on Monday Night Football, there was a young boy on the show, and he was 10 years old, and he'd had 6 surgeries in his head due to tumors. And he was a big Patriots fan, and he was a huge Tom Brady fan. And he had Tom Brady's number 12 carved into his skull. And that was his request. Really wild and strange in some ways. And yet the doctor said, you know, it's probably going to be, it's not going to matter a whole lot. And his mom said it wasn't probably going to matter either. So why not? Why don't you, when he's under, you're trying to do another operation with the tumors in his brain, go ahead and carve 12. And it wasn't in his hair. They carved 12, just like the Patriots number in his skull. And they showed it to him on an X-ray. And he showed up at the Patriots game on Monday night. And he is degrading. This little boy is dying. And his father said, cancer may kill my son, but that never broke him. And they showed a picture of this kid on the sidelines. And he was in a wheelchair, and you could tell he can barely walk now. And this kid managed to throw 2 thumbs up in the air and smile and tilt his head. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. You know, the spirit that this kid had, who knows he's dying. He knows it. And all he could do was be the happiest kid in Massachusetts that night. You see, that kid theoretically could be a victim, you know, and he wasn't. In his own mind, I mean, sure, he's only 10 years old, and maybe you don't know any better at 10 years old. I don't know. But I've seen other instances where people have extreme conditions and they rise above them. And life is a lot better and easier if you take, you know, maybe not so many extreme situations, and you can build on your life. But we're always creating. Always. Even the victims are creating. No matter how much they've allied themselves with other victims, it does not legitimize the fact that they're all co-creating together. I suppose sometimes there are real victims. You know, you ask somebody, well, what about that kid? Isn't he a victim? Well, he is a victim. He's a victim of many things. Maybe perhaps the greatest victimization of that child is vaccines. Could be. What would have happened? I'm sure there's probably a good chance he was vaccinated. How would his life have been different if he hadn't been vaccinated? We don't know. Was he a victim of vaccines? Was he a victim of bad genes? Was he a victim of the environment? Sure. Things happen to people. Did he create it? Probably not. That was a physical condition. But what he didn't do is he didn't create a sense of being a victim. That is different. And I was totally inspired and touched by watching that kid. This leads us to Neptune and Pisces, which is where Neptune is. And we all get to look at this in our lives. We all get to see, where am I on that spectrum? I've got issues, but am I exacerbating my issues by not dealing with my issues? Am I exacerbating my issues by, you know, having some kind of other strategy in my life? Denial. I guess that's not dealing with your issues. But what if you said, these are my issues and I want to rise above these issues? What if this is part of Neptune and Pisces as well? Water rising to a whole new level versus the swamp that theoretically wants to be drained or needs to be drained, which is a very Piscean kind of thing, although it's more Cancerian, I think. But nonetheless, I think a swamp is like scorpionic. Don't you think of a swamp as scorpionic? Like, what's living in a swamp? That's like a Scorpio thing. You know, there's like things snaking around in that swamp, crawling around that swamp. There might be a body or two in that swamp. That's a Scorpio thing. It's not really a Pisces thing. But you could, Neptune and Pisces can rise above this stuff, theoretically. Neptune is at 9, and we've got the moon here. Tomorrow, we got a moon-Neptune opposition. Just watch out. Don't fall prey to any victimization at the beginning of the week. Just don't do it yourself or other people. Be clear. Be clear about it. We're still in Sagittarius. We're still in the realm of truth. When it goes into Capricorn, then we're in a different place. That's not too far off. Of course, we're talking about the 23rd of December, and that's only 5 days away. So this is I think it's the 22nd, right? 22nd. 4 days away, 22nd. And then we're into Capricorn, which is a very different vibration than Sagittarius. Much more serious. There's our friend Pluto, 16 degrees. Capricorn. The new American Revolution. This is where we are. It's happening. Whether it actually happens or not, whether it actually goes down in the streets or not, we are in a time of revolution and change. And it's going to be interesting to see where it all goes, whether we're going to have more control, more Big Brother, more oppression, or we're actually going to break through this thing and have some freedom, liberty, and rights. TBD, Chiron Pisces 20. And we go through our Piscean wound, only 10 more degrees to go. It is now, almost third decan. Yeah, it's third decan, so it's in there now. So that puts it in the scorpionic decan of Chiron and Pisces. That's dark. That's shadow. Chiron and Pisces is in the shadow phase now, looking at our collective and personalized shadow. Let's see what we have here for birthdays. Then we're getting into Trump's chart. Oh, it's 11/11. How about that? This is the 19th, so we're talking on Monday, tomorrow. Johnny Albino. Who the hell is Johnny Albino? Let's see. He was born 1919. He was a Puerto Rican bolero singer, born in Uaco. He had over 300 albums and CDs, and he died on May 7th in 2011. I'm a music guy, and I've never even heard of Johnny Albino. How about that? His real name was Juan Antonio Albino Cortez, but we know him as Johnny Albino. Let's see. I'm not going to get into his chart, though. Who else? Somebody that you might know and find interesting. It is the birthday of the beautiful Paulina Gretzky, but I'm not going to read her chart. Let's see, who else? Ronan Farrow, Mia Farrow's son. Jean Genet. Jean Genet. I always like saying that. Jean Genet. Or not could look at Jean Genet's chart. Anybody interesting? Bobby Lane, the quarterback. Let's see. Jake Gyllenhaal. Shall we look at Jake Gyllenhaal's chart? Let's check out Jake. Everybody knows Jake Gyllenhaal. This is a AA rated chart. Lois Roden. Jake Gyllenhaal, one of the, great actors Generation X, Pluto and Libra. Pluto and Libra qualifies Generation X. Leo rising, true node on the ascendant, born to be an actor. How about that? This guy's living out his true node. There you go. You want somebody living out their true node? Jake Gyllenhaal, true node and Leo on the ascendant. He's got let's see, oh, look at that. Born to act. Sun, Neptune, Mercury conjunction in Sagittarius in the 5th house. He's a great liar. But in acting, acting is lying. Right? You're playing somebody else. In a lot of ways, acting. Hemingway said that writing is lying. Could be. Could be. But the 5th house, that's Leo's house. And he's got the Sun-Neptune conjunction, which makes his identity fluid, correct? Mercury-Neptune conjunction. That can be really good memory or really terrible memory. He might be able to remember lines really well, but maybe other events in his life, not so much. Very unusual chart. Extremely unusual. Leo rising, true node on the ascendant, Jupiter, Saturn, conjunction 3rd house, Pluto 3rd house. Then we have Venus, Uranus in the 4th house, Mercury, Neptune, Sun, 5th house, Mars, 6th house. So everything in this chart is 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th house, with the exception of the moon in the 10th. Kind of a funnel chart if we want to, bring that terminology in. Moon in Gemini, able to be emotional and do this and do that, do this and do that. Be more than one person. I think Maggie Gyllenhaal is in his sister. So Saturn, Jupiter, 3rd house, Gemini. There's moon in Gemini up at the top of the chart. 10th house. The invocation of siblings. Mars in Capricorn works hard at his craft. Highest planet in his chart is Mars in Capricorn. Everything's 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th house with Jake Gyllenhaal. With the exception of moon in the 10th. Interesting chart. He has one trine, which is Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, trine the moon. He has one sextile, Neptune-Mercury, Sun, sextile Pluto. When you get into minimalization in charts, those aspects that are aspected, I think, are probably pretty potent because they're not competing with a lot of other noise in the chart. There's got a square with Mars, Pluto. That's power. I think Jake Gyllenhaal could be potentially quite angry if he let himself. Moon Venus opposition in so Venus Uranus conjunction. That's in the 4th house. It's unusual relationships, very unusual relationships. I don't know anything about his romantic life or his sex life, but I venture that he might be bisexual with that Venus conjunction in Uranus and the moon opposition. I'm just throwing it out there. Not that I really care. I'm just throwing it out there. Interesting chart though, but he's nailing that 1st house and that Leo and that acting. Good job for you, man. Way to follow your chart, Jake. Let's see, who else do we have? Come on back. Who else do we have? Anybody interesting? That's kind of a fascinating chart, Jake Gyllenhaal. Is it Gyllenhaal or Gyllenhaal? I don't know these things sometimes. Anybody else? Before we move on. Oh, today is Arvydas Sabonis' birthday. Well, at least the Monday will be. Famous center who played professional basketball. Huge man. Huge. Other than that, Robert Urich from the TV show Vegas. Seemed like a nice guy. Maurice White, the late Maurice White. He died this year. Reggie White. Reggie White. Now that's an interesting chart. That is let's check out Reggie White's chart. A lot of people don't know who Reggie White is. Maybe some of you sports people do. Reggie White played, this is an X rating, so this isn't even really worth going over. Reggie White was an interesting character. Total Sagittarius guy. I'm not gonna see, where's this? He's got Sun, Mercury, Mars, Venus, all in Sagittarius. Saturn, Jupiter, Saturn in Capricorn, late degree Jupiter in Aquarius, true node in Leo, Uranus, Virgo, Pluto, Virgo, and Moon, last degrees of Taurus. So let me tell you a little bit about Reggie White's life. Reggie White was a football player and a very good one. He was known as the Minister of Defense because he was an ordained minister. It's what he did. He played football. He was a very good football player. He sacked quarterbacks. He rushed them. And it was his job to tackle them and create havoc. He was very good at it. Very, very good. Made a lot of money at it. Was very vocal, very charismatic. And he talked a lot. One time he addressed a group of people, you can look this up on the internet, and he talked about what made every race great. And I think Reggie meant well, but based on today's standards and practices, it might have, fallen into kind of a weird category. And he was just trying to say, hey, every race has a gift, and that gift came from God. Now, Reggie was a very religious man. And when he was done playing football, this is actually before he wanted to go deeper and deeper. This gets into that whole Sagittarian thing, by the way. Because Sagittarius is a very religious sign. And of all the signs, Sagittarius and Pisces, two most religious signs, and Sagittarius the most orthodox. Pisces, a bit esoteric. So he was getting into not just the Bible. Man, he wanted to read. He wanted to read Hebrew. He wanted to understand the Hebraic translation. So Reggie started to study Hebrew, and then eventually goes to Israel, and he's like getting deep into Hebrew, and Reggie almost becomes Jewish. He gets very close there because he's really trying to hone in on the true word of God. I mean, he's got 4 planets in Sagittarius. Of course he wants that. And he goes to Israel, this other country, right, in order to further his study and go deeper. And Reggie dies of a heart attack event, and not too long after that. So maybe he came in contact with the truth. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe Reggie White, who's born with his sun conjunct the Galactic Center, got there. And once he did, brought him back home. All right, why don't we do this? I'm not going to play any music because I don't have any music to play. And it's not what Sunday night is all about anyway. But I wanted to get into a couple of charts here. The one chart that I wanted to look at tonight, you can do this. We can do this together. So if you're listening at home, if you're watching at home, you can go to Donald Trump's chart if you have it programmed in your library of charts. And then you go into the full chart selection, and you hit progress chart. And we're going to look at Trump's progressed chart. Okay, Trump's progress chart. The progress chart is a chart where the Sun, Mercury, Venus move about a degree per year. The moon moves much faster in the progress chart. It takes about 2 years for the moon to move through a sign. Ascendant moves roughly a degree per year. So Trump has gone all the way around the chart once, since he's 70 years old, right? 70 years old. He's now on the second version of his ascendant, so it's Libra. Normally, Trump is a Leo rising, but he's Libra rising now. And let me just think this through here. So we've got, hold on, Saturn. No, he's gone 3 signs. I take that back. No, he's right there right now. And I just have to look at this. So that's 30, that's 60, that's right. Apologize. I had to do the math. I was thinking about something else. So yes, so he started off at 28 Leo, and so now we're at 24 Libra. 28 Leo, 24 Libra. So all of Trump's all of Trump's progressed planets, for the most part now, for the most part, are in his 12th house. Neptune in Libra, Mars in Libra, Venus in Libra, Chiron in Libra, Jupiter in Libra. He has natal Jupiter in Libra anyway, correct? Natal Neptune in Libra anyway. Now, and they don't move very much in the progress chart, but Venus and Mars do. So now, with Libra ascending, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, four planets and Chiron in the 12th house. 4 planets and Chiron. Now, Trump, as we know, Gemini, his sun has progressed into Virgo at 0 degrees. 0 degrees Virgo, this is what I wanted to talk about. 0 degrees Virgo is where Regulus is right now. Regulus is the royal star. It is the star that is denotated royalty, kings, queens, emperors, empresses. Regulus has been that sign. It's been in Leo recently for millenniums, right? It moved into Virgo not long ago. So it's a big shift. And his sun has progressed to 0 Virgo. It went from 29 to 0 just in this last year, which puts it right on Regulus. That's huge. For somebody that's running for president and their progressed sun is conjunct Regulus, and it's only 3 degrees off of his own ascendant in his natal chart. Now, in progressions, it's actually considered kind of far. Progress chart, you're dealing with transits with about a 1 to 2 degree orb. Really, they're much shorter for if you want to apply, let's say, transiting planets onto a progress chart, it's a 1 to 2 degree orb. Or if you want to take those progressed planets and put them on the natal chart, it's a 1 to 2 degree orb. They're very close. The aspects inside the progress chart tend to be wider, almost acting more like a natal chart. Now, some people may not agree with that, but I think that the progress chart, dealing with aspects inside the progress chart, it's more like a natal chart. When you apply outer aspects or transits or aspects to the natal chart from the progress chart, much tighter orb, 1 to 2 degrees. Okay? All right. So he's got a sun at 0 degrees. 0 degrees Virgo, conjunct Regulus. This is momentous. Momentous in a lot of ways. It seems destined here with his sun at 0 degrees Virgo in the progress chart. Now, what is the meaning of all those planets in Libra in the 12th? Well, Neptune in Libra, or Neptune in the 12th house, is, to me, it is the planet and the sign of the natural mystic, because that's Pisces' house. That's Neptune's house. It lives there. It dwells there. People that have Neptune in the 12th house natally tend to be naturally mystical. They live with this notion of the God within or the sacred within. But it's not out there somewhere. It's like a spring. It just flows through them. So he has this, but he's got this Mars conjunction. Remember we were talking about Mars in the 12th house? Hello. Hidden enemies. Mars conjunct Neptune. We're going to have that Mars-Neptune conjunction at the beginning of the year in Pisces. Mutual reception, 12th house. Now, in terms of that Mars being threatened, well, we had that Mars in Capricorn. That would have squared his Mars. We've got these planets in Capricorn coming up. We have Sun squaring his progressed Mars, Sun squaring his progressed Neptune. I think the establishment is really going to come after him even more. And if there is an imminent threat, or there is the potential for a Trump assassination, it feels to me like it will be during this Capricornian phase, an early Capricornian phase, perhaps sometime between the 20th and the 26th. Potentially, right? That's because that's when the sun is squaring Mars. And it's from the third house in the progressed chart. And the third house are people around him. Now, it's generally considered the house of siblings. I don't think Trump would get it from somebody he's related to. I don't think that that's the case at all. But it is certainly on the local side of things. It's within a 150-mile radius, and it's coming from the Capricornian establishment. Transiting Pluto, in this instance, next year goes into a tight square with his ascendant, progressed ascendant in Libra. It's easy to see why this guy won the election. He has Jupiter in Libra progressed conjunct his ascendant. He appealed to people. He appealed to a large number of people. With Jupiter in Libra, he addressed the wound, the chirotic wound right there. Chiron conjunct Venus, 12th house. He connected into a deep wound. There's a lot of collectivity happening in his 12th house. Jupiter is there right now, transiting. He's doing things behind the scenes. Things that you and I just don't know about. It's the way it is. I think he's going to be, if he gets through this time and runs this gauntlet, I think the big year for him is going to be 2018. Because that's when, in the progressed chart, he's got a Pluto-Moon opposition. That's big. And Pluto squaring his ascendant. That's very big. And in this case, the progressed Moon is in Cancer. And remember, in his chart, his Moon is in Gemini. And the Moon moves about 2 degrees a year. So roughly in 2018, no, it's more than 2 years, 2 degrees a year. The Moon moves through sign in about 2 years. So in 2018, that Moon is going to be moving into Leo. He's going to have a Moon-Saturn conjunction. That's interesting. So Pluto's not going to quite that's going to be, I've got to do some more math on this. The only thing, this is so fascinating, this chart. The only planet he has progressed that's in Earth is Virgo. That's 0 degrees. And Virgo, with the exception of a semi-sextile to Venus, and what is that to Mars? He doesn't even have a semi-sextile to Mars, just to Venus. And then he's got a in conjunct to, let's see, no, it's not even an in conjunct. What is that? To Saturn? No, it's to Uranus. Where's Uranus? That's not even in, it's what is that? It's quintile to the true node. Quintile to the true node. And it looks like he's got a semi-square to Uranus. Quintile to the true node. Interesting. Other than that, that sun is not aspected. Sextile to the ascendant. That's it. I mean, there's no major aspects to the sun in his chart. And it's the only planet that he has in Earth in the progressed chart. This is a guy who feels alone. He's going alone here. And for the next 30 years of his life, his sun is going to be in Virgo, which is service. It's really interesting because he's got Saturn conjunct the midheaven in the progressed chart, which is a karmic, it's a karmic aspect. You know, he's having to deal with a lot of power here. Mercury, Pluto, Saturn, all in Leo. These are the Leonine effects of rulership, and Saturn is karmic. He has a debt to pay with Saturn on his midheaven, progressed. This is really fascinating, but it's that sun in Virgo. So I know a lot of people don't like Trump, but I feel like this Sun in Virgo, not only in the progressed chart, but if you take his progressed Sun and put it in his natal chart, it's in his first house. This guy is all about service with Sun in Virgo at 0 degrees, and he's alone. He feels utterly alone, even with his family and stuff. And the family, of course, is important, but his family's on display with Leo, correct? Up in the 10th house. It's all on display. And Pluto in the 10th house is a very intense aspect. Here to change culture. It's the nature of Pluto. Wherever it goes, it transforms that thing. And the 10th house is culture. It's fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. The big aspect here really is Uranus. And the Uranus opposition to the ascendant in Aries in the 7th house happens next year. That's going to be a big one. He's going to have some destabilization in intimate partnerships. I don't know. I don't get a good feeling about his relationship with his wife. I do not get a good feeling about this. And yes, she's got like 5 planets in Taurus. She's fixed in terms of her energy, not fixed in terms of her baby making. But and it's all in the 2nd house. She's classic Empress material with all that Taurus. But Uranus is going to be going through his 7th house in 2 years in Taurus, and that's his wife. And there's going to be the potential for a Pluto opposition to the. I got to check. I have to do the math on this. Pluto is at 16 degrees right now. It's 8 degrees. It's a little far off for the progressed moon. I'm not sure if that'll actually wind up opposing it, but certainly that Uranus in the 7th house, and then the opposition from the 7th house to his ascendant in Libra. To me, that energy is about destabilization. That Uranus in Aries, he might wind up doing deals with people that are counter to this kind of Libran front, this balancing that's trying. Look, and you can say, "Oh, that's full of shit. That's full of shit. He's an egotistical maniac. Whatever. Okay, that's fine." But I'm just looking at this from an astrological perspective, and we either buy in or we don't. It's not always that selective. I kind of buy in, I don't buy in. I buy in when it feels right. I buy in when it feels good. I buy in when it conforms to some version of reality that I ascribe to. But other than that, I don't always buy in. So you got to figure out where you are with this. That's where I'm at. So putting a cap on this, if he is going to go down, if something's going to happen, I'm going to say it's probably going to be, look at that. This is interesting because I'm looking at this Mercury retrograde now, and it's going to be exact his Venus in Libra in the 12th house. There's things going on behind the scenes, both against him and with him. This is so fascinating. Wouldn't it be just amazing to be a fly in the wall and listen to some of those conversations? That'd be so, whether they're in the White House with Obama or with Trump, it'd be so fascinating. Moves, counter moves, this, really, man. But we're just out here. We're just living life. We're just living life, man. Let me check in with the chat room, see how we're doing here. I did hit the stream, so we are streaming. I know that. We are streaming. Let me check in with the chat room tonight. See how we're doing. Let me just check in with my chatters. We do have the live stream happening, right? Let me just go to the live stream. Is it happening? Let me see. Let me just go in here. Okay, let me just check. I'm going to make sure. Live stream. I'm assuming it's happening. Because nobody telling me that they can't hear me. I don't have it on the live stream tonight. I know that I'm streaming. I know I'm streaming through my OBS application, but I'm not seeing myself on YouTube tonight. All right, just playing with the glasses. Easily distracted. All right, well, why don't we wrap it up? And I can't get to the chat. I'm sorry, because I'm off that live stream window. But if you're there, thank you for being there. I appreciate it. I appreciate it immensely. And I appreciate people who have faith in me, that allow me to work with them in a daily capacity. It gives me great pleasure to do that. So why don't we break it down? Let's end this live stream here on Sunday nights. Officially clocking in at 1 hour and 40 minutes. This has been Robert Phoenix. Have a wonderful week. Don't be too hard on yourself. What's that light right there? That's an interesting light. Okay. It's a little light there going on there. All right. I like that, man. A little pointed light. See it? Right? No. Let's know. Right? There. Yes. It's right there. There. Anyway, thank you. Thank you all very much. Have a wonderful week. Don't be too hard on yourself. All right? Do not be too hard on yourself. God bless everyone. Take care.